If you struggle to stay consistent and motivated with your fat loss diet and training plan for more than a few weeks, then this video is going to give you a new strategy which is going to help you finally stick to the plan for long enough to get yourself in the shape you want to be in. And this is actually something that we can learn from Formula One racing. If we look at their race strategies, we can take some lessons from that and apply it to fat loss to stay consistent and boost motivation. If you're new here, I'm Ryan Lewin. I'm an online body and health transformation coach, and I've been working full-time in the industry for 10 years. Having previously done 4 years at university where I studied exercise and nutrition all the way up to master's level, I mainly specialise in body transformations, so helping people do stuff like this, and this, and this. And this year I've decided I want to put way more time into a YouTube channel just so I can help spread my message and help as many people as possible. If you hit subscribe, you can stay in touch with my content, and it's going to come from my years of experience and the studying that I've done to hopefully help you get healthier, happier, fitter, stronger, and of course, in better shape. Go on, drop us a subscribe. So let's just use a little bit of a breakdown. If you're 100 kilos and you need to lose 20 kilos to get to the place where you'd be really, really happy with how you look and how you feel, here's my client John as an example of what that might look like. Now, I recommend my transformation clients lose 1% of their body weight on average each week. Losing 1% a week is just a really nice target to aim for because it produces fat loss at a rate that's exciting. You see progress, week on week, but it doesn't require a calorie deficit that's just so aggressive that you don't have energy for really important things like working out and hitting the gym, for example. So if your goal is to go from 100 kilos to 80 kilos, in theory, if we use the 1% a week rule, that could take around 21 weeks. But the reality is it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to do this all in one go. Diet fatigue is a real thing. You will get hungry, you will get tired, and you probably will need to take breaks. You're probably going to have weeks that just don't go to plan. And life stuff is going to come up, whether that's holidays, weddings, work commitments, whatever that may be. So what I recommend to do is to go into the journey with that mindset of there are going to be breaks within this, and actually set up a strategy that factors in those breaks. And this is where we can look at Formula One racing. In order to be able to complete the race in the quickest possible time, cars will come in for strategic pit stops. Now, for that particular lap, that obviously results in a slower lap time. But because they've come in and they've changed tyres, they're then able to drive the car just as fast and just as hard for the next part of the race. If they tried to do the whole race without a pit stop, they'd be at more risk of crashing because the car would malfunction, or they'd have to go so slow that everyone else would beat them. I recommend to see your 20 kilo fat loss transformation in the same way. The 20 kilos is the equivalent of crossing the line with the checkered flag when you finish the race. But along the way, we're going to have those strategic pit stops, which involves eating more calories, taking a bit of a deload in the gym, just generally recharging a lot of the physical and mental batteries that are needed for continued success with fat loss. Whether that's allowing your muscles to become more restocked on glycogen, or whether that's just recharging your willpower and motivation batteries. This might be every 8 weeks, it might be every 5 kilos, or it might not even be that specific. It might just be more built around stuff that you've got going on in life, like, holidays or weddings or busy work periods. And ultimately, what we're looking at in this week is bringing calories up to maintenance, maybe taking a few evenings untracked to go out for a few nice meals with your partner or your family. It's taking a bit of a deload in the gym. If you're lifting weights, training hard 3 or 4 times a week, it's reducing the weights that you're using by 30 to 40% just to give your joints and your nervous system a bit more chance to recover and getting yourself ready for the next phase. It's important to stress that the deload, the diet break, isn't just doing whatever for a week and eating as much food as possible, because that's going to set you back. And in a Formula One race, that would be the equivalent of the driver being asked to pit stop and then driving the car straight into the wall. That's not what they do. It's strategic, it's controlled, it's measured. Now, why is this good for improving consistency, motivation, focus, and ultimately the results that you get when it comes to fat loss? From a psychological perspective, it is a lot easier for you to stay focused and get the jobs done that need to be done. Tracking your calorie intake, getting your steps in, drinking your water, lifting weights, all of these things that you need to do on a daily basis in order to get to your goal. If you know that you've just got to stay tunnel vision and smash it for 6 to 8 weeks or for the first 5 kilos before you get a proper strategic break, It's a lot easier than telling yourself you need to stay consistent for 22 weeks, because that can feel like such a long time away. And it also becomes easier to kick the can down the road a little bit then, because you feel like it's such a big journey that's going to take ages anyway. Like, what's the problem if you just delay it by one more week? Whereas that shorter term, real clear focus point prevents that from happening. And using this F1 pit stop method with your fat loss also allows you to factor in a few more social events. And I do genuinely believe that those people who stay socially connected as they go through their transformation just makes the process so much easier. But also when it comes to long-term maintenance, I think if you cut your whole life out just to get to your goal when it comes to your fat loss, you're more likely to rebound after, because you're going to be so deprived of social connection and eating out and doing all these things that we like to do as humans. And then you end up doing it even more after the journey and then setting yourself back. So having these strategic pit stops where not only are you recharging your physical and mental batteries, but you're also recharging your social batteries, just supports the bigger picture and your overall health, well-being and happiness. And lastly, it allows you to go a little bit more aggressive with your calorie deficit, because you know you're only doing it for 6 to 8 weeks before you take a break. So you can push forward at that 1% a week and make sure that your rate of loss is, motivating, it's exciting, you're seeing consistent progress. And that can help with better consistency in that 6 to 8 weeks as well. And it provides more motivating checkpoints. If you've got 20 kilos to lose and you lose that first 1 or 2 pounds, it feels like that 20 kilos is just never going to come. Whereas if you're just mainly focusing on that first 5 kilos that you need to lose, once you've lost a kilo, you're 20% of the way there to that first goal. Again, that's just good for the overall mindset of all of this, because let's be honest, mindset is one of the most important things when it comes to fat loss and getting in shape. Now, the last thing that I'll say on this is, obviously, this does mean that the journey might take a little bit longer, because you are going to take maybe 2 or 3 week or 2 week long breaks, depending on what you've got going on in life. But that's fine. It just means you just need to get started a little bit earlier, especially if, you've got holidays, festivals, weddings. If there's a particular thing that you'd like to be in good shape for, it just makes sense to kind of reverse engineer and start as early as you can, really. And this is the exact sort of thing that I do with my clients in the initial assessment. We look at the goal, we look at what they've got coming up in the next sort of 6 to 9 months, and we map out the journey. So I use a phase planner and basically reverse engineer from the goal to where we are now, what's going on in life, and we just identify where we're going to push forward, where we're going to take breaks. And that means that my clients go into their journeys with a crystal clear plan of action of where they're going to be heading. And it does work so well. So if you do find that you struggle with that consistency and focus after that first 3 or 4 weeks of initial kind of motivation has worn off, but you're always just telling yourself that you just need to lose 20 kilos and not actually thinking about it in this way where you're putting breaks in and strategically mapping it out, I promise you, if you give it a try, it really works. Now, if you've made it this far into the video, I've got a present for you for doing so. If you comment below saying planner, what I'll do is I'll send you a copy of a couple of resources that I use with clients that you'll find useful for this. So the first one is a rate of loss calculator. So this is where you can put your weight in and it shows you roughly how long it'll take to lose, 10, 20 kilos if you're going at that 1% a week. And then with that, you can then use the phase road mapper, which is like, okay, this is said it's going to take 20 weeks. I put that into my phase road mapper. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a few breaks in here. I've got this holiday coming up with family, and you can start to build your journey and you can start to get a feel of how long it's actually going to take. And then all of the sort of mental benefits that I've spoke about with this method, you'll start to get a feel for how you can apply it with your own life and how it's going to benefit you, because you'll have identified where you can push forward, where you need to take a break. And then when you're in those push forward phases, you're going to stay way more focused, way more motivated, and way more consistent, which is ultimately going to lead to getting in better shape and actually seeing it through with your goals. So comment below saying planner and I'll get it sent over to you. And there we go. That's how we can use Formula One racing strategies to improve our fat loss results. If you found it useful, I would appreciate any feedback on the videos. Obviously, I'm quite new to this, so if I get feedback, it's always good to know that the advice is landing well. And like I say, do make sure to drop us a subscribe so you can stay in touch with all the content that I put out through the rest of the year and beyond. Thank you for listening. I'll catch you next time.